Today, officer shot in LA expected to survive. More to come. Good morning to you guys. Shout out to you guys from wherever you are. It looks like I'm already buffering. Shout out to DJ Vision Barnett. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for all that you do to support the channel. And also, I just want to say a warm thank you to everyone. This show is brought to you in part by the loyal patrons and viewers and subscribers and Periscope viewers and followers like you. Shout out to Derek C. Williams, Killer Whale Channels, The Definition of Anarchy, Chrysler Imperial H, Cold War Jesus, Little Miss Goth, Let the Truth Be Told, and AZ Infidel. Thank you guys so much for all that you do. Thank you so much. Shout out to DJ Vision Barnett. And shout out to Garrett Reed. Good morning to you. Thank you so much. And just a little bit going in. I'll give you guys just a few seconds to get in. You know, this is the thumbnail. Of course, you've seen it by now. Of course, we're coming out of another violent weekend, which seems to be what we do on a regular. So shout out to everybody in the stream. I will try not to keep things too dark. Maybe we can try to keep things hopeful, and we'll just be mindful and keeping those officers in mind, and whether you're spiritual or not, whether you keep them in prayer, you know, that will be up to you. But very tragic weekend. And I've said this before. I know this will be what I will call a part of my opening statement, is that, you know, we're in what can I say? We're in a bit of an era, if you will, in which things have been what I call perverted to the point of chaos and confusion. And of course, you know, as they say, I agree, and I'm not the originator of this, but I think it's true that evil has to ask for permission. And when it doesn't come, that's where you get violence. And normally, but I will say this, evil doesn't ask for permission. I will say that. It doesn't ask for permission. But the bigger concern is, you know, will you be prepared if it meets you or when it greets you? So it's such a tough situation. Very tough. Shout out to Patrick Jane Forums, and thank you so much. And thank you guys so much for doing all that you do with the Channelytics and sharing out the stream this morning. That makes a huge difference. We have quite a few stories per usual. Quite a few stories per usual. But I a part of my opening statement is just more of a mind dump. I should say. Here on Black Spring, it's more of a mind dump. I said, why are there so many fraudulent threads in our society right now? I mean, are they new on the scene? I mean, do we believe in any form of truth or history, or what do we believe in? I mean, I see so many times that I find that many people are residents of their own mind. And honestly, it's a dangerous thing because sometimes that's the only thing they need to do is to justify their actions in their minds. And that could be evil too. It could be dark, it could be evil, but if they've been accustomed to it, if they've been doing it, whether as a child, I think some of these things start very early. It starts very early that, people just kind of whatever, if they can justify it in their minds, then it's good. It's they consider what they're doing good, or even if it's even for themselves, for self-inflicted pain or conflicts. I find that a lot of times it starts in the mind. And you can take something as simple as, I'm not going to say this is a cultural thing, but I've had people say, "Oh, that's my play sister," or "That's my play." Like, what does that mean? How old are you? Are you still playing at 38 or 39? Either that person's your sister or they're not. But then but the thing is they've been living in that falsehood for so long, or that, as some people call it, in that, was it cognitive dissonance, or some people spiritual or religious reprobates. We have a lot of reprobate mind people. It's still not the best thing to do, because you don't have the discernment. When do you get the discernment to distinguish between what's reality and what's not? Like, if you have a sister, why do you have a play sister? Just I mean, but I'm saying that's a small thing. That might even be a trivial thing, or a tiny thing. But then when you look at our constructs, our politicians, our our doctors, our health officials, our administrators, the bureaucrats. So, I mean, it's the same kind of a shout out to everybody in the stream. Thank you guys so much. This is what I'm calling a this is you get the mind dump on the opening statements at times. So maybe even somewhere between a rant and a rave. I kind of fuse those two. They have the same kind of synergy. So shout out to everybody in the stream. Shout out to Crazy Chick Sheena. Thank you so much for all of your support. Shout out to Derek, not Derek. Shout out to Derek wherever you are in the world. Derek is priceless. Shout out to DJ Vision Barnett. And shout out to Patrick Jane Forms. And thank you so much for sharing out the stream. Shout out to Garrett Reed. And thank you guys for joining me on this portion of the show, which is what I should call it, the mind dump. The mind dump. But it's just a whole weekend. I mean, I ran into more disturbing stories this weekend. And there's one of the stories, it's probably going to come out. So I don't know if I want to. It's this culture of conservatism, and I don't know, everybody found their niche, and it just seems like you've got some fraud there, I mean, but at the same time, who am I to say what's de facto conservative or de facto whatever people want to call themselves, libertarians, or some people are all about spectrums, or some people are all about trying to figure out how to ride two horses. They can't choose, they can't make a decision. So they just, it's just, it's a struggle. You have conflicted people. And I don't know, I'm not sure if that's where government is right now. I'm not sure, but it's just such a dark time right now. And I thank you guys for being here every time, each and every time. And I will say that I might do a couple of night streams this week. That's possible. We'll see. But I think it's possible. And thank you guys so much for coming in for that super late stream that I did a few days ago, but that was really quite fun and lots of great energy from you guys as always. So yeah, but I'm just trying to, just to try to come up with some resolve or just to come up with, coping. I think we're all coping with, I mean, even this community, you guys, this is coping with all the things that are going on. I mean, I don't know if you guys agree. It's not about agreeing, or I don't know if you see, if you can see where, whether you're patriots or people that are on the fence, or they can't figure out or they can't figure out how to ride two horses. How are people coping with what's going on? I would like to play a clip of, like I would like to play a clip of a statement from was it Dr. Fauci, and what he's saying about further lockdowns. And there's many places across the country, you know, that are not that haven't lifted, never really came out of a lockdown. And it's just, to live your life. So what we can do is we can go to that really quickly. We'll take this from Reuters, and I'll share that with you, and then we'll move on to our regularly scheduled program. A shout out to DJ Vision Barnett, who says that's why people go from Republican to independent. Well, it's just, well, it's the betrayal. It's the betrayal. The trust of the people is lost. It's hanging in the bounds. I mean, to be honest, when you think about it, that's actually how a lot of people say that's how Donald Trump got elected, because the string of career politicians, we'd had enough. But but this is my final on that sentiment is that I don't, until we can have justice across the board and at the height of government from top down, we're going to always be, it's always going to be not, it's not going to be up to its potential. It's not. And when we see there's two standards, then you're going to lose the trust in the people. You're losing it on from a health standpoint. You're losing it on a governance standpoint. And I'm saying at all levels. Shout out to Tinez Bummer. How are you? Hey. Thank you so much for coming in from Periscope. I thank you guys so much over there, all the followers, new followers, those of you driving by with the window down. They're not quite sure if you're going to be a follower, or if you're driving down the street with the window down from the YouTube central station or central mother channel, and you're not sure if you're going to come in. I thank you for being here and listening and tuning in too. So thank you guys so much for all that you do. So we'll take just a tiny statement. We'll just take the statement from Reuters on Dr. Fauci, and we'll go on. But just before we do that, I'll just go ahead and give you the lineup, the lead-in stories that we will do. We're going to look a little bit at these at the election dynamics, maybe the Rasmussen poll. It looks like a few arsonists. Looks like the West Coast arsonist equal the climate change. And of course, a little soft pushback. And then, of course, we have a story coming from our vetted source, the New American, on the Supreme Court on transgenderism coming to your schools. And if we have time, maybe we'll get a little bit into, I don't know if we want to get into the hypersexuality of children. It's not the thing the comment that I want to make about that. The hypersexuality of the youth is not, that's actually not a new thing. It's not. You can look at, there's plenty of symbolism in Walt Disney movies. There's plenty, I don't know, was it Pixar, Toy Story? There's plenty, and you have to write in and have those people to remove remove those things. But this is a much different time now, and there's no the mask is off. No pun intended. No pun intended there. Shout out to Crazy Chick Sheena. She says, "I am Republican modern, but some Republicans, older ones, are so into their conspiracy theories and old ways of life." I it's a thick it's a thick it's a thick template is what but the thing about it, it doesn't really it doesn't really matter. I mean, we're also coming off of a 9/11. We're coming off of a 9/11 weekend as well. And a lot of a lot of people say we were really united. A lot of people like to think we were really united after 9/11, but you had a lot of people. The mask came off around 9/11. I mean, I've heard stories. I've had colleagues tell me that they ran into other professors that said that had an American flag. You saw a surge of American flags to start coming up, popping up everywhere. I'm happy to see those flags in my own neighborhood, but during that time, some of my colleagues would run into other people and they'd say, "What are you doing with that flag?" Like, these are college professors, liberal college professors asking a colleague, "What are you doing with that flag?" So it was almost like it was a release. You got to see it firsthand at some of those who really are the elite, the utopians, the champions of utopianism, and they want to know, what are you talking about? This is a sinful nation. This is a sinful place. What are you doing with that? What are you doing with that thing? Now, they're describing the American flag. Shout out to the definition of anarchy. How are you doing? Thank you so much for coming in. Everyone, get to know the definition of anarchy. And I just want to do something really quickly. Shout out to the definition of anarchy. You might take a look at something here. I'm going to post it here. Just 1 second here. I'm still here. All right, guys. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in the stream for you. Shout out to the definition of anarchy. Thank you so much for coming in. Definition says Hegelian dialectic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple of things in the stream coming up. But I just want to give you a statement from Dr. Fauci. I have to be careful that I don't say Fraudsy because they might yank me down. I'm going to say it anyway, Dr. Fraudsy. So, you may not like that. I recommend you walk away if you don't like it. But all right, so I'm going to share this screen with you. So it looks like he's got plans for more lockdowns. All right. If all else fails, just lock the people down. I mean, the projection of time that they're talking about. All right. So this comes from Reuters. Fauci says states seeing surge in the pandemic cases should reconsider some lockdown measures. All right. The U.S. government's top infectious disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, on Monday said states with high pandemic case counts should reconsider imposing lockdown restrictions, emphasizing the need to get cases to a low baseline before the fall flu season. In some states that with moderate case counts, experts are seeing, quote, that same insidious increase in percent positive that we had seen and pointed out in states like Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, Minnesota, and others, end quote. Fauci said during an interview with the Journal of American Medical Association. Fauci said last week that he was seeing signs of a surge in cases that could be peaking in the South and West, while other areas were on the cusp of new outbreaks. Those states should consider pausing or rolling back reopening efforts, though they don't necessarily need to revert to full lockdown, he said. Arkansas, California, Florida, Montana, Oregon, and Texas each reported record spikes in fatalities last week. Fauci said that this is critical, that the outbreak be contained before fall, when influenza cases are likely to spike alongside the pandemic and more people begin to move indoors, increasing the risk of contagion. Fauci also cautioned that although data suggests that young children do not get seriously ill from the pandemic, they are still capable of getting infected and spreading the virus. President Donald Trump has made school reopenings for classroom instruction as part of his re-election campaign, but some teachers have resisted the push, arguing opening schools could put adults at risk for serious infection. Fauci also added that he remains cautiously optimistic that a vaccine could be available for the virus before the end of the year, but that companies should refrain from issuing statements about ongoing clinical trials until there's enough data to judge whether vaccines are safe and effective. But it's interesting that he says, okay, let me get this straight. He added that he remains cautiously optimistic that a vaccine could be available for the virus before year end, but companies should refrain from issuing statements about ongoing clinical trials until there's enough data to judge whether vaccines are safe and effective. Well, it's kind of too late for that, right? It's kind of too late. They've already started. The cat's out of the bag and the targets are out of the bag. You know, we've heard about the HBCUs, other institutions with people of color. We've heard about all of that. And we've also heard from AstraZeneca that somebody became ill during one of the trials as well. And it looks like they have resumed. They've actually resumed the actual trials as well. So shout out to everybody in the stream. Yeah, so just a word on that. But I mean, I've even heard, now I will do some more investigation on this, but I'm even hearing into late 2021. So like, this is just, it's just like we're in no man's land. We're on the management of this, we're in no man's land. All right, so with that said, we're going to go on. We're going to go on to our first stories. Hope you guys are doing well. Shout out to everybody that's in the stream. And what our premier story will be, the Supreme Court of the U.S. on transgenderism. And there again, I'm talking to you about the perversion and in perverting confusion into deception, how all of that spinning, how that works. Hope everybody's doing well. So we'll go on to our next segment here, but we will definitely premiere that one, because whether your kids are in public school or not, it might be important for you to know what's coming or who's going into your kid's restroom. You know, we've talked about this before on this channel. HR 5, they are chomping at the bit to get HR 5 and HR 9 passed. And those are right on tap with the UN agenda and also the Green New Deal. So we'll get going with that. Hope you guys are doing well on your Monday. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Crazy Chick Sheena says, why are dead people? You know, I saw that story, Crazy Chick Sheena. There again, it speaks to the level of trust. Is it there? I wouldn't say. I'd say it's a long way from that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hop into this story on. We'll talk a little bit about the West Coast arsonist, and that's gonna come from Breitbart. Shout out to everybody in the stream. So let's just have a little bit from Breitbart. There was a little bit of an orange haze over the weekend. A little bit of an orange haze. So we're gonna go there. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. All right. So the story that's coming to you right now, we'll deal with the arsonist first. Okay. According to this story, this comes from Breitbart, that four arrested for arson on the West Coast. One, a quote, regular attendee of anti-cop rallies in Seattle. Now, the four individuals, two in Washington, one in Oregon, and another in California, have been arrested for arson as firefighters battle dozens of blazes across the West Coast. One of the arrestees is reportedly a quote regular attendee of anti-police rallies in Seattle. Michael Jared Bakela, 41, has been accused of arson, partially sparking the massive Alameda fire, according to the Oregon State Fire Marshal's office. Now, Oregon Live reported that he has been arrested on, quote, 2 counts of arson, 15 counts of criminal mischief, and 14 counts of reckless endangerment, end quote. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office said in a news release on Friday afternoon that on Tuesday evening, a resident of Phoenix saw a person later identified as Bakela lighting a fire behind their house on Quail Lane. Because there was an impending blaze, the residents who saw him set the fire had to flee their home. Bakela was arrested and initially lodged in the Jackson County Jail on Tuesday on a charge of possession of methamphetamine. He remains in jail on the arson and criminal mischief charges. Now, the Alameda fire has destroyed at least 700 homes and resulted in at least 2 fatalities. Elsewhere, authorities arrested 2 individuals in connection with the fires in Washington. One of the suspects, Jeffrey Allen Accord, has been accused of setting a fire along Highway 167. He live streamed himself on the scene of the fire and reported it to police, claiming that he, quote, literally pulled over to call it in, end quote. Amazing, right? Amazing. Quote, other drivers, however, told police they watched the 36-year-old Puyallup man walk into a field carrying a lighter and a cardboard, quote, Cairo 7 reported. The outlet added that Accord is, quote, a regular attendee at Seattle defund police rallies, end quote. He is also facing charges for allegedly breaking into a gas station. Jacob Altana, 28, has also been arrested in connection to arson. Additionally, Anita Esquivel, that's Anita that's before you right now, 37, has been arrested for deliberately setting fires in California, according to the California Highway Patrol. Shout out to Derek C. Williams. Thank you so much for sharing out the stream. I really appreciate you for all that you do and for your contributions to this community. So Anita Esquivel, 37, has been arrested for deliberately setting these fires. And the news comes as Democrat politicians continue to blame fires across the region on climate change. Now, that brings me to my last. There's also a report Newsom has a plan for. See, the thing about it is, they will push their agenda forward no matter what. Absolutely. It doesn't matter what they have to do to advance their agenda. A shout out to everybody in the stream. You guys are the absolute best. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hope you guys are doing well. So we do have one more story that's in the same ilk of that. And it comes from Newsom. Firefighters. Newsom has a plan for firefighters. Hope you guys are well. But what he's done is, and we'll probably take this one from Breitbart as well. So apparently, Governor Newsom, now this actually comes from the state website. Governor Newsom signs a bill eliminating barriers that block former inmate fire crews from becoming career firefighters after serving their sentences. So there you go. So let me give you the verbiage here. At the site of the North Complex fire today, Governor Newsom signed AB 2147, a bill that eliminates barriers that prevent former inmate fire crews from pursuing a career as firefighters once they serve their time. Authored by Assembly member Elois Gomez Reyes. The bill allows nonviolent offenders who have fought fires as members of the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation's fire camps to have their records expunged, paving the way for individuals leaving fire camps to seek meaningful employment and further training. Quote, this legislation rights a historic wrong and recognizes the sacrifices of thousands of incarcerated people who have helped battle wildfires in our state. And I would like to thank the legislature for passing this bill, end quote, said Governor Newsom. Quote, signing AB 2147 into law is about giving second chances to correct is to right a wrong. To rehabilitate is to restore, end quote, said Assembly member Gomez Reyes. Quote, rehabilitation without strategies to ensure the formerly incarcerated have a career is a pathway to recidivism. We must get serious about providing pathways for those that show the determination to turn their lives around, end quote. Despite their experience and qualifications, many formerly incarcerated firefighters struggle to obtain licenses and employment due to their criminal records. Under AB 2147, formerly incarcerated individuals can file a petition in county court to expunge their records and waive parole time, which will open career pathways in emergency response and a variety of other disciplines. So here's the thing. All of this, these are elitist utopian ideologues that are running. You got SJWs in government. And that's kind of falling right along with people that want to abolish prisons. So what are you going to do? Free everybody from prison and put them at the front of the line for the job fairs, for jobs? I mean, maybe people that already have the experience and the credentials would like an opportunity to work or have a career as a firefighter. They just come up with, it's all of a sudden the party that contributed to criminal injustice, all of a sudden they're throwing in their towel to right wrongs that they created, right? All these progressives, we get a lot of these bad ideas and bad results because of them telling everybody what's best for them. And making huge mistakes that generations and decades of people will find out later that, oh, that was really, the road to hell was paved in good intentions. Or I've heard it said also, I'm not the originator of this, but the road to hell was paved with a Harvard graduate in the middle, or a Harvard professor in the middle of it. It's just staggering. It's staggering. I mean, criminal justice reform was something that Donald Trump's administration tackled. And ever since then, it's just been a parade of abolish prisons, defund the police, just nonstop. So shout out to everybody in the stream. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hope you guys are doing well. I have a message from D Nice Talk. Do you feel bad for the police that got shot? Absolutely, of course. Police officers are human beings. And to me, they're human beings first. Of course, I feel bad for those cops. I think being a cop is one of the most dangerous careers or most dangerous jobs out there. Well, that's within you're within your if you don't feel any empathy for the cops, look, that's on you. That's not that's your onus, not mine. This is not an echo chamber, but and I'm not here to debate feelings or emotions or condemn anybody. That's not what we're doing here. If you don't feel bad for the cops, then that's on you. I'm not sure. Of course, I feel bad for anybody that's shot or that's innocent, that's innocently shot. So shout out to everybody in the stream. Shout out to DJ Vision Barnett. Yeah, but the thing about cops are nobody. The thing about it is nobody on this earth is without sin, and that's where you go back to what is the quote, or what is the lesson here? Those without sin cast the first stone, something like that. Go ahead and go ahead if that's where you think you are. And if that's your position, that's your position too. It's not. I don't. So are you saying that you feel empowered because the cops were shot? I mean, I appreciate you for coming in, but if you're empowered by somebody else's pain, then you might ask yourself where that comes from, not me. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Old Head Deuce, how are you? Shout out to you, Old Head Deuce. Thank you so much for coming in. Always supportive, Old Head Deuce. So what we're going to do now is let's go to our story on the transgenderism. Hope you guys are doing well out there. So DJ Vision Barnett, if you're here, please stand up. Let's see. Appreciate everything you do out there, DJ Vision Barnett. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our story from our vetted source, The New American. I appreciate you guys so much for being here and taking the time to come in. All right, so this segment of our show is brought to you by our good friends at the John Birch Society. Less government, more responsibility, and with God's help, a better world. The JBS is a constitutional and educational organization that's been around for 60 years, dedicated to upholding and defending the Constitution and working to preserve our freedoms and liberties in this country. The JBS does not endorse any political party or candidates. Rather, it focuses on the education, training, and development of the American voters. Thank you guys so much. So we're going to go to the story that you see before you on the screen. I really appreciate it. Okay. So according to this was written on Thursday by our friends at the JBS by Luis Miguel. Federal judges use SCOTUS, which is the Supreme Court of the United States, decision to force transgenderism in schools. Across America, federal courts are using June's Supreme Court LGBT decision to tell schools that they must allow, quote, transgender, end quote, girls, i.e. biological males, to compete in women's sports and allow students to use their locker rooms and restrooms of their choice without regard to sex. All right, so there you go. There's your framework, ladies and gentlemen. So They are going to use the June decision on that, and 2 federal appeals courts covering 8 states sided with transgender students who were challenging their schools' bathroom access policies, while a federal judge in Idaho struck down a state law that restricted women's sports to biological females. In both cases, the judges relied on the Supreme Court's unexpected ruling in Bostock versus Clayton County, which barred workplace discrimination against gay and transgender people. These rulings will embolden the left and could have a long-lasting effect on the moral makeup of America's youth. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden has promised that on day one, his administration would be favorable to the demands of the LGBT lobby. Bostock involved the meaning of an employment non-discrimination law, Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. The law prohibits discrimination based on, quote, sex, end quote. The justices had to determine whether discrimination based on sexual orientation or, quote, gender identity, end quote, was covered under that law. The majority, led by Trump appointee Neil Gorsuch, ultimately determined that sexual orientation and sexual identity, end quote, are covered by Title V of the Civil Rights Act. Justice Samuel Alito authored a dissent in which he warned that over 100 federal statutes similarly ban discrimination, quote, because of sex, end quote. Among those is Title IX, which bans sex discrimination in schools. Alito predicted that the majority's line of reasoning in the Bostock case would apply to a Title IX lawsuit featuring trans students and bathrooms, quote, segregated by biological sex. Quote, the court provides no clue why a transgender person's claim to such bathroom or locker room access might not succeed, end quote, Alito wrote. Now his prediction has come true. At the time of the case, there were several such lawsuits underway. As the Free Beacon notes, in Virginia, a recently graduated high school student named Gavin Grimm had been fighting a Gloucester County School Board directive on bathroom access for 5 years. The board's policy required students with, quote, gender identity issues, end quote, to use either separate bathrooms, like those in the school's nurse's office, or the bathrooms corresponding to their biological sex. Grimm, a transgender male, preferred to use the men's restroom and had done so before the board's policy took effect. Grimm sued the school board in 2015 under Title IX and the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. A 3-judge panel of the 4th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled against the board on August 26th. Quote, after the Supreme Court's recent decision in Bostock versus Clayton County, we have little difficulty holding that a bathroom policy precluding Grimm from using the boys' restrooms and discriminated against him on the basis of sex, end quote, Judge Henry Floyd wrote. Judge Floyd even placed the case within the supposed context of a long line of disputes that he said started with the Dred Scott case, in which the Supreme Court denied African Americans citizenship. So I'm going to finish this up because this is really quite disconcerting and very, very deceptive. The federal judge in Idaho who put on hold the state's Fairness in Women's Sports Act, which restricts women's athletic leagues to biological females, like cited Bostock. The Trump administration filed a brief supporting the law, arguing that the Constitution lets Idaho account for the, quote, average physiological differences between the biological sexes, end quote. But District Judge David Nye said the government's position is, quote, of questionable validity, end quote, in light of the Supreme Court's ruling. The Trump administration has nonetheless sought to advance the more restricted interpretation of Bostock. The Education Department's Office of Civil Rights, OCR, asserts that the decision is not relevant to an ongoing dispute over the Connecticut Interscholastic Athletic Conference's decision to let biological males play in women's sports. The Alliance Defending Freedom, a conservative legal group, is challenging Connecticut's practices in court and asked OCR to investigate. Quote, the U.S. Supreme Court's recent decision concerning a completely separate law cannot be manipulated to mean that girls should be reduced to spectators in their own sports, end quote, ADF lawyer Christian Holcomb said in a statement. Furthermore, a letter from OCR warned that forcing women's athletic leagues to allow biological males to participate would defeat the purpose of Title IX. Quote, it is starkly contrary to the terms, spirit, and goals of Title IX to tolerate a policy which, quote, deprives a girl of an opportunity to participate in an elite competition which she has rightfully earned, end quote, ADF concludes. So beware of what's coming, I guess. If you have kids that are attending public school, you might want to be on the lookout for that and the interpretation. And see, my issue is, can you see that even the civil rights is being, if I can, for lack of a better word, perverted. It's being used for other ideologues and other agendas. So when people champion, when they want to compare LGBT to African Americans and other parts of the Constitution, it's not comparable. Now, if they're going to use the Constitution and they want to use the amendments to pervert or to give other groups rights, which are probably going to ultimately undo other people's civil rights, that's what's going to happen. And that's what I see. That's what I see them doing. They are basically undoing civil rights in order to give somebody else rights. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Hope everybody's doing well. I read a comment here from the definition. He says, if the cops are innocent, then I feel bad. If they were part of the street gang faction with the Compton Sheriff's Department, well, live by the sword, right? Thank you so much for coming in. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys for coming in. So, here again, these are provocative times and there's provocative issues there. But of course, I don't see an end to these conflicts. I really don't. And that's very sad. Of course, it's not my goal to be Debbie Downer here or negative Nancy, if you will, but it's just where we are. It's where we are. All right. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in. But there again, back to the original story. So I just, you've got these SJW judges and circuit court judges. They're going to figure out a way to get what they want, because they're under the same pressures as the Joe Bidens and the DNC and the squads and all these auxiliaries out here that are pushing for, that's HR. They're getting a soft version of HR 5, ladies and gentlemen, is what they're getting. They're getting a soft version of HR 5. Before it's even passed, they're already foreshadowing that that's going to happen. You're going to have restrooms and locker rooms are going to be used by the opposite sex. Now, I will say in Europe, that's something that already exists. But Europe is a different animal. I mean, Europe has secular values. I mean, they have flat economies. This is not Europe. So keep an eye out, keep an eye out. I mean, keep your head, stay in the fight. Shout out to everybody in the stream. All right, so we're going to keep going here. So yeah, just keep an eye on that. Because I mean, honestly, I don't think it's going to be limited to, it's not going to be limited to schools, whether or not transgenders can participate in sports. It's going to happen. It's going to come like it's going to be general public. It's going to be an issue in public. if you're a member at a sports club or health club, and are you going to go in the restroom with your kids? Or are you going to tell your kids, like they used to say, as I say back in the day, use the restroom before you leave. Use the restroom before you leave home. So don't drink a bottle of sweet junk and then start asking to go to the restroom, because there won't be a restroom. Shout out to everybody in the stream. I really appreciate you guys for coming in. So we're just going to take a quick little look here at just a couple of polls. I don't spend too much time on polls because I don't know if we can it's not very consistent. And I think if we just look back at 2016, that, of course they had Hillary Clinton, ahead in the polls. And of course they were whether that was reality or not, the polls were a bit skewed, and everybody's, well, who were they asking about these polls? And so this is a Rasmussen poll. Actually, we're going to go to the Daily Caller first. Shout out to everybody in the stream. All right. So according to this is coming from, let's see. Okay. Here's where the 2020 presidential race stands in the 6 most competitive states. Now, I'm sorry to say, but I really think that Joe Biden I saw him, he's done a couple of interviews via Zoom, and it just looks, it's getting to be a situation of neglect. And I don't really know where his family stands on this whole thing, but it's really rough. It looks bad. So according to this, former Vice President Joe Biden holds a single-digit lead over President Trump in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Florida, and North Carolina, the 6 states that may decide November's election. Democrats are trying to capitalize off of an enthusiastic base that is determined to defeat Trump as the president attempts to gain a lead in the 6 states, all of which he won in 2016. All right, both candidates have raised hundreds of millions of dollars, much of which has gone towards and buys across the 6 states, ad buys across the 6 states in a final effort to win swing voters who could decide a close election. So the Democratic nominee, Joe Biden, leads President Trump in 6 of these states. And I'm not sure if I believe where they are on this, even though the Daily Caller is not bad. But I mean, I guess with all the money that they're funneling and all their slush funds, he might be leading in donations. They might be leading in the funding that they've managed to come up with. But do I think the polls are accurate? I can't say. So, all right. So in the 6 of the most competitive battleground states, as both candidates amp up their fundraising efforts and place multi-million-dollar ad buys just over 7 weeks out from the election, according to a Daily Caller News Foundation review. In 2016, Trump pulled off an upset win after flipping Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Now those 3 states, in addition to Arizona, Florida, and North Carolina, are likely to decide the winner of November's presidential election. The DCNF reviewed polling, fundraising, ad spending, demographics, and more to determine both candidates standing in each battleground state. Though the states, which total 101 electoral votes, are unique, several overarching strategies have emerged from both Trump and Biden. In the upper Midwest, experts say Trump must aim to drive up turnout among white voters without a college degree, while the former vice president must try to accomplish the same among young voters and voters of color. In southern states like Florida, Trump is trying to build on his relatively strong support from Hispanic Americans, while Biden is seeking to hold his support among the state's disproportionately large older population. So they kind of give you a little bit of the skinny I guess, on where the risk are. This Wisconsin, I think, was kind of a big deal. According to this, 4 years ago, Trump capitalized on Hillary Clinton's months-long absence from the Badger State, winning Wisconsin by approximately 23,000 votes. Since then, however, Democrats have ousted Republican Governor Scott Walker and invested enormous resources in the state. The Democratic Party also chose Milwaukee for their convention, though the event was scaled back significantly due to the pandemic. Biden held a 7-point lead over Trump as of September 9th, according to the 538 polling average. But Trump has outraised him, bringing it in $3.4 million to Biden's $1.3 million, according to the Federal Elections Commission data. All right, now, though Biden has maintained his lead, a victory in November is no sure thing. The GOP strategist Brian Reisinger told Politico, referring to Clinton and former Democrat Senator Russ Feingold, both of whom held leads over their opponents only to lose their elections. All right, so here we go. A hot topic. The August shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha catapulted Wisconsin into the national spotlight, keeping protests and riots a central issue of the 2020 race. In the wake of unrest, Republicans attempted to portray Biden as willing to condone the violence. I just want to take a moment here. You guys might find it a bit ironic that most of the states with the most, where you've had the most fumes of tension, have come from majority or Democrat-run states. And all of a sudden, these states are the issues. The tensions are high in those states, therefore making these states even more important as battleground states or in strategies. So if we just look at this, we had Minnesota is listed. Well, guess what? Guess who fell to a fatality in Minnesota? George Floyd. Well, guess who else is from Minnesota? Representative Ilhan Omar. Like the burning down started there. So it's a little convenient, right? Is that a strategy? Is that a strategy we can that we should be looking for? Like, let me see, which states have we not had these casualties in? Let's see, where have we not had these? Let's see. Oops. Okay, bouncing a little bit here. Shout out to everybody in the stream. I really appreciate you guys. It's just a little note to self, a little note to self. So we got Wisconsin, we're featuring Jacob Blake. We had Minnesota featuring George Floyd. George is not on this list. So, but I'm not saying is there going to be one more? What else are they going to add to this cycle? What else? Shout out to everybody in the stream. But we also have, back during the primaries, we had, what was it, Project Veritas. They did an entire expose on the Bernie Sanders campaign, and they basically were already saying if Bernie did not triumph over the candidates or the nominees, the cities would burn. So what's been happening? I mean, these people work in lock and step. They're not marching. The clown car wasn't like an individual. They didn't have individual objectives. They were all a part of the same objective there. You've heard of the universal basic income that was brought to the table by Andrew Yang, and eventually that's what's happened during the pandemic. They've all regurgitated these same components. They've all suggested it. Pay you, what was it, at one point up to $2,000 to stay home. Shout out to everybody in the stream. And it looks like I have a new Simon said, how are you? Are you new to the stream? Thanks so much for coming in. Just want to read your comment here. He says, I don't think that there will be a mandated vaccine. There are massive protests because of the mask, and a mandated vaccine will trigger even more protest. I thank you so much, Simon said, for coming in. Shout out to you guys. Really appreciate it. And also, guys, just hang in there with your Channelytics. I really appreciate it. Just make sure that you're still subscribed to the channel. If you could just continue to check with the community tab for things that are coming out, that'll be helpful. And check out. There is an article on the mask, and there's some mask hacks that I call there on the community tab. Tony Patriot, thank you so much for coming in. How are you? Shout out to Tony Patriot. If you guys aren't familiar with Tony Patriot, you want to check him out. Tony Patriot is very passionate, and he's a great content creator. So give him a check out. And as I say all the time, this is not a grow stream, but I appreciate you guys if you want to, grow amongst each other. You can do that as covertly as you please. Shout out to everybody in the stream. So yes, so I'm just wondering, and this is, I don't know whether you want to call this conspiracy theory, conspiracy fact, however you want to spin it. Yeah, you know what, Tony Patriot, I've had a lot of issues on YouTube, and I just can't tell. I can't really tell where it's going to be. So I thought this was going to go kind of bad because I thought it was buffering and black, because if there's some key words that if I say them, then I get sent to the black hole. So hang in there. Shout out to everybody in the stream. And also, just by the way, if anybody in the stream that's going live after this, if you are, let me know, and I'll be happy to. I haven't done a raid before, but I'll be happy to do a raid. Shout out to Old Head Deuce. Thank you guys so much. Or if there's anybody going live within the next couple of hours, I'll be happy to send my friends over to your neighborhood. Shout out to you guys. All right, so it looks like we're winding down. I might open this up just a second here. Actually, well, I'm going to open this up. And for those of you that are new to the stream, everybody's, of course, always welcome. Thank you guys from Periscope for coming over, and from all over the planet for coming over. But, I advise you to take a look at those community standards, because we don't do, I have the best moderators on the planet here. So that's just for your own, that's for you to have your best experience, for the best experience. We don't do complicated things here, but it's the standard is, the expectation is there. So I'm going to open this up just a bit here, and then we will close out. So I'll give you roughly 3 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, 30 seconds. And then we're going to let you guys get to your Monday. Get back to your Monday. I thank you guys so much for tuning in. So yes, but I had one other, and it goes back into the children. My gosh, there's, I know everybody's been talking about cuties and what's the hashtag cancel Netflix and all of that's been going on. But yeah, let's just do one more. This is going to come from Jacob Bullions. He spends a lot of time, does a lot of reports on what's actually going on. I mean, he actually follows it very closely. So let's have a look. Shout out to Philip J. Turner. Thank you so much for coming in. And also, guys, I'm thinking, for example, we might do some more Moonlight streams. Oh, thanks so much, Tony Patriot. I appreciate any time. You're welcome anytime, Tony Patriot. I really appreciate it. He says, yeah, well, I appreciate people for tuning in from their cars and wherever you are on the planet. So what I'm going to do is I've got it opened up right now, but I think we'll go over to Jacob really quickly. Now, we are in an active, this is the school is in, right? Sound the bell. School is in. So I hope you guys are faring well in that or found solutions to your school year. So with that said, let's hear from Jaco, not Jacob, Jaco Booleans, and his shtick entitled "How Hollywood is Preying on Your Family." So it's a little intense, but you know, I think he's pretty consistent with what he does. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in.
Jaco here. Have I told you that the fastest growing form of child sex trafficking in the United States of America is what's called familial trafficking? Also the hardest form of trafficking to detect. What we're going to expose you today is how it starts and how it happens. So let's talk Netflix. Let's talk cuties. And it's not all going to be cuties. Oh, there's so much more than just cuties. But let's talk about that, right? We're talking here about an organization, Netflix, a film director and producers team that's saying, we'll remove the poster. It's not about the poster. It's about what's in the film. It's about the 600 girls that had to audition to a live audience, to producers and directors and executives to win the part, to then go on to the film set. And as you know, I'm a film director, so let me give you a little insight. There was an actual camera operator with a director of photography and a crew on a film set when those crotch shots were taken. Those kids on the set, on the film set, were being exploited while making the movie. This is not just about the movie exploiting children who will watch this or encouraging children to twerk or whatever it is, right? This is about the actual children also who were exploited on the film set. And where were the parents? Oh, that's right. That's right. It happened on their watch. That is familial trafficking. When a parent is aware or a parent is exploiting a child. And of course, these children were not sold for sex on that film set, but they were being exploited. No question. Can you imagine the catcalling and the talk by the adult men and women who were on the film set, who were the crew running the film set after hours? The talks about the shots they saw, the bloopers, the mishaps, the wardrobe faux pas that happen on a film set that happens all the time with children, 11 through 16-year-olds here in this film set. It's despicable. The parents who allowed their children to be on this film set should be ashamed of themselves. This is how it happens. This is desensitization. I don't care what they say about this movie. It will desensitize the image of sex to children. No question about it. For those of you who don't know too much about this, look into the French director. This is a French film, by the way, okay? French flair, French promiscuity that we gladly bring into the American culture. Why? Because they've done it for decades, and I'm going to show you how. Look into Mamouna Ducour, the director. Of course, you got to look into Netflix, CEO Wilmot Reed Hastings, also, by the way, on the board of Facebook, and also formerly on the board of the California State Board of Education. Yes, the same State Board of Education that voted in the comprehensive sex curriculum with Gavin Newsom, the governor, signing it into law that we exposed. Now, let's move on. This is not new, okay? We're going to get to this stack of paper in a minute. This is not new. I want to show you a couple of things. What Hollywood, Disney, and alike, Netflix, etc., have been doing for decades. So let's start in 1942. And why don't we start with a little animation movie called, that's right, Bambi, where Thumper and Flower get erect. Their whole bodies get erect, simulating an erect penis in Bambi. Or let's go to The Little Mermaid, where the bishop at the wedding ceremony gets an erection in The Little Mermaid. Let's move on to Roger Rabbit. You remember Jessica Rabbit, the voluptuous Jessica Rabbit? Well, how about this image? Look at this. You didn't even know it was in there, where Jessica fully exposed herself in the film. Even worse, let's go to baby Herman committing sexual assault in a kids animation series. Buzz Lightyear? Who does not like Buzz Lightyear, right? Toy Story. So what about when Jessie shows her acrobatic skills? We're going to show you a video here. And Buzz Lightyear, right, gets an erect reaction with his wings. Take a look at this.
That critter needs help!
And then, of course, Netflix, this is not your first go around. There's a little animation series that I actually grew up with. That's how old it is. Maya the Bee. And in Maya the Bee, a Netflix series, which they had to pull because of this image, there's this massive erect penis in a child's television series painted on a mural on the wall. It's despicable. It's been part of our culture in Disney and alike historically since 1942. And yes, sure, sometimes when they discover it, they pull the images, or they'll say, hey, we'll pull the poster, pull the whole film. But that's not it. That thing got greenlit all the way through. It had funding and distribution meeting upon distribution meeting, and in sales pitches around the world. And so many men took a look at that film and said, this is okay. We approve of this movie called Cuties, and we're going to push it out to the public. It's not just about the poster. Come on. You're exploiting and desensitizing children through film. Now, I want to start talking Nickelodeon. Yep, let's talk Nickelodeon. Have you ever heard of a platform called addictinggames.com? A friend of mine, Rick, a while back, brought this to my attention a number of years back. Well, addictinggames.com was founded by Atom Films. Let me read you something. And I'm going to quote here from the site. Addicting Games is the largest online gaming site in the US, reaching over 10 million unique users every month. What they don't tell you is how old the users are. We're going to get to that in a minute. We are considered founders in the casual game industry, developing and distributing innovative, irreverent, addictive online games since the early 2000s. Now, let's talk about some of these games. And I don't mention some of the games that I'm going to talk to you that's on their platform, right? Atom Entertainment was an internet entertainment company which operated Atom Films, Shockwave.com, and AddictingClubs.com. The company was formed in 2001 by the merger of Atom Corporation and Shockwave. 6 years after Viacom, the parent company to Nickelodeon, Viacom, right? 6 years after Viacom acquired Atom Entertainment in August 2006 for $200 million, the website was rebranded as Nickelodeon Addicting Games. Now, what's on this website that your child may be viewing? That 10 million viewers a month, over 4 million minors per month are playing these games, and they're free. Well, let's start with the first game, Naughty Classroom. That's right. Game details, and I quote, "You don't need good marks to top this class, just a wicked mind. Point and click on the objects to use them." The object is the teacher's breast, so she can flash you. Why don't you just look at the clip yourself? All right. So don't know if you want your children to be looking at those images, playing those games, playing a game where the objective is to get the teacher to flash you. Okay. That's Naughty Classroom. Why don't we move on to a game called Perry the Perv, as in pervert? Again, for minors under the age of 6 are playing this. Okay, this is click and point, right? Let me read. Perry the Perv is an instant classic seduction game for kids. It uses flash technology. Play this series game now and enjoy the many other related games. Again, why don't you take a look at Perry the Perv? Well, companies like Enthusiast Gaming. Enthusiast Gaming invests in Addicting Games, one of the largest online multiplayer game networks. That's right, multiplayer. Keyword. You know, I've told you before, children are being trafficked, groomed, seduced, abused, coerced, defrauded through Xbox, PlayStation, addictinggames.com, Nickelodeon, parent company Viacom. Start connecting the dots, connect the breadcrumbs. Okay, pull on the string. This sweater is going to unravel in epic fashion when you see how our nation has been infiltrated at a super young level to exploit our children. They don't care about your child. Your child is a number. They've got an objective to classify pedophilia as a sexual orientation. They're coming for your child as young as 4 in the classroom, as we have exposed to you in the comprehensive sex ed curriculum, but they're coming to your child on their gaming device. Online. What do you think happens to a child after he played Perry the Perv? You don't think he's going to Google pervert? And he does it one time, and he gets push notifications coming his way from all angles, Pornhub, etc., etc. It's insanity in our culture. So don't for 1 second think Netflix is standing alone in this thing, okay? It's been part of Disney, like I showed you, since 1942, all right? It's in every animation series. They push this, they laugh it off. They go, oh, the animator was bored, and he put it in there. We didn't know. No, you know, because I know. I know every single frame in my film. I've got continuity specialists in my film. I know when a ball cap was facing left and now it's facing right. You know what's in the movies. You know what's in the animation. You go through it frame by frame. Multiple people look at the credits at the back of the movie. You want to tell me nobody in a 250, 300 crew in an animation series caught the massive penis in Maya the Bee? Or caught the erection, analogy, or the dirty talk? We're not even in that, in copyright in these things. It's by design that it's in there. They just hope you don't catch them. And if you catch them, they'll pull it. And then they just keep pushing the others. Viacom, clean up your act. You've got many other things. Nickelodeon, it's Nick for Kids, by the way. Nick for Kids. You're abusing and manipulating and extorting and coercing and exploiting children, okay? Look, this stack of paper is a bombshell. This is a bombshell, okay? I'm going to close this video by talking about what's coming in the next video. Why does all this happen? Why is this in the classroom? Why is comprehensive sex ed in our kids' classrooms throughout this country at the moment? Voting even in states like Texas, okay? Super conservative. 26 years abstinence only, and all of a sudden we're going to do what's called abstinence plus. And the plus is just CSE, and they're changing the name to the curriculum and the name to the bills and the statutes. It's because in 1970, okay, and I'm going to read for you from this document, a statute was written, and it is a big one because these are the states involved, and we will expose them to you. Obscenity exemption statute. Do you know that obscene material is illegal? It's illegal in the playground. It's illegal if you go into a parking lot of a convenience store and you show obscene content to a child, you're going to jail. Okay? But not in the classroom. Oh no. Why not? Because in 1970, the obscene exemption statute was written predominantly for police and nurses and hospitals to look at obscene material and put cases together and be able. And then they said, wait a minute. Scientists need to be able to see this as well. And the second you went to scientists, in comes Kinsey and his reports and his absolute seduction and manipulation and coercion of children and his experiments on children. And when the scientific community was allowed to bring in obscene material, so were the educators. And enter the education department. So obscene material is legal in the curriculum, in the classroom, in the library, and in the museum, and in entertainment. Let me read for you. This is the document. Obscenity exemptions for educational purposes invalidate states' harmful acts to minor statutes. So the harmful to minor statutes, things that are harmful to children by each individual state that's represented in this document, that statute, the obscenity exemption statute, nullifies that as harmful in the classroom. And that is why you have it in your child's curriculum. The next video, we're going to expose this statute. Who wrote it? Who's voting for it? Which states are it in? Is it in that's voted it in? And some states are teaching it without having voted on it. We can go after them. Okay? Talk to you again next time.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Black Spring with Autumn. And that was Jaco Boolean's show. And he is absolutely on fire when it comes to the legislation and what's to come. I mean, he's exposing a lot of things. So, I mean, he's done other things. And in addition to just the cinema or the videos, he's also exposed quite a few toys that are coming out. And so what are they going to, what are the progressives going to say next? Well, it's real. There's much more to it than what you realize. You have to watch the whole film. It's art. So yeah, I appreciate you guys for tuning in and lending me your ear on this Monday. So I want to give a shout out to everybody in the stream, or everybody that was in the stream earlier. Thank you guys so much for coming by and for helping out with those channelytics. And we're staying in the fight around here, but just to really stay in the fight, we need you guys to hang around and to keep the channelytics going. So if you hit that like button or the subscribe button, or even you shared it out, that's very helpful. I really appreciate it. And so shout out to Philip J. Turner, a kindred spirit here of Black Spring with Autumn. Just want to read a couple of comments. We'll wrap up in about 7 minutes so you guys can get back to your Monday. And so Philip J. Turner says, I'm 61 and the morality of this country has went to Hades in the last 4 years. I can see that. I can absolutely see that. Thank you so much, Philip J. Turner. And the link is still out there. So we've got about 6 minutes roughly, and we're going to pack it in and fold it in. Shout out to Tony Patriot. And yes, these people are very much, they're very much sick, and they're very much, people are residents of their minds. If they can justify it there, they're going to bring it out. Old Head Deuce, thank you so much for coming in. And shout out to Simon Said. Shout out to the Definition of Anarchy. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for all your support and all that you do. And shout out to Derek C. Williams for sharing out the stream. It's the little things, this show, this cast is brought to you by the loyal patrons and you, the subscribers. You guys together, we make this thing work. Shout out to Patrick Jane Forums, who shared it out first. Today, shout out to Patrick Jane Forums. Thank you so much for that and for all your support. Check out Patrick Jane Forums and Killer Whale channels. Shout out to DJ Vision Barnett, who is out on the front lines. And DJ Vision Barnett comes in every now and then, and he comes in and he is a patriot and a contributor on the channel. So I appreciate you for all you do. Thank you so much, DJ Vision Barnett. And I hope you're being, of course, what safety means, and you know the dynamics and what the relativity is in your area. So I would imagine that you're doing a great job out there, and thank you for all that you do. Shout out to D Nice Tog. Thank you so much for coming in. Shout out to Crazy Chick Sheena. Thank you so much, Crazy Chick Sheena. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for everything you do and all your positivity. Shout out to Tinez Bummer. All right, Tinez Bummer. Thank you so much for coming in from Periscope. Thank you so much to the Periscopians that I like to say. And it's, that's a thick. I gave you guys a human more than a human quality over there. I really appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. All right. Also, shout out to Chrysler Imperial H. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you so much for all you do. Chrysler is a gold standard. He's also a great content creator. So you guys get over and check him out. Shout out to Garrett Reed. Thank you so much, Garrett Reed. And Old Head Deuce says, we will survive. I appreciate your positivity, Old Head Deuce. So yeah, so we've got about roughly 3 minutes and 20 seconds, and we're going to wrap this one in. I really appreciate you guys for coming in. So I will probably close this out with a bit of maybe just some closing thoughts. So, we've talked a little bit about morality. We've touched a little bit on civil rights. We've talked about polls. We've talked about justice at the highest levels of government, wherever it may be. We've touched on many things today. We've talked about, the utopians, the ideologues, the UN Agenda 2030, and there's so many things on tap for the next 10 years. If you go onto the UN.org, you'll find out, that's the playbook. When people yell conspiracies, to me, it's a mechanism to shut you down, which I think it's more of a mechanism to shut down, or it's a soft pushback. Let's call it that. It's a soft pushback, or it's a way to deflect. Somehow they think they can deflect. That's still a valid deflection, which is actually not, considering everything that's going on here. So shout out to everybody in the stream. And we've talked about it. I've used the word perversion to describe many things, but the Civil Rights Act has been perverted. So I'm just thinking, hypothetically, civil rights, a lot of people from the past, as they say, we stand on the shoulders of those who fought for civil rights. But then in this day and age, it's like the civil rights was it actually a win for the Black community? Was it a win for, I didn't say, was it a win, period? Was it a win for the Black community? If those rights can be perverted and can be manipulated so easily, how long before those rights are undone? They're being undone. I think that's clear. In the name of the LGBT and they're undoing everything. The left eats its own. They eat their own constituents. They eat their own groups. And pretty soon you're left out. Your group is going to be left out in the cold, or you're going to be pushed to the back of the line to push their agenda forward. I mean, we've got, I'm serious. We've got a lot going on. We've got an effeminate society being pushed. I mean, I mean, there's nothing wrong with a guy wearing a man bun, but now we're up to half up, half downs. I mean, it's kind of amazing. So I got a comment. Old Head Deuce, just as I'm closing out on a rant, and not quite a rant, I get a comment from you. He says the leadership needs to prove they eat food and drink water. So shout out to everybody in the stream. I thank you guys so much for entertaining and showing up on Black Spring with Autumn on your Monday. So without further ado, I'm going to be closing out the stream. Thank you guys so much for coming in. And also keep an eye on the community tab. I know I sound like a broken record on that, but it's nice to have engagement from you guys. It's like I will tell you, I want to add a call-in feature to this show so that we can actually we can have an exchange. I mean, we do that. We do exchange in some way. You guys have an exchange on the actual in the chat, but I would like to have that an exchange, more of a direct exchange with you guys. And maybe everybody doesn't want to show their face. Everybody doesn't want to, they don't want to exchange or interact, in imagery with imagery, and that's totally fine. I appreciate you guys for all that you do, and maybe I'll see you guys around for a Moonlight stream this week, or just a late night. I'm pretty sure I have something else due this week, so who knows? Maybe Thursday. I'm thinking Thursday might be a good day. It's probably gonna be a good day for a Moonlight stream. So thank you guys so much, and have a great rest of your Monday.